since the news broke of attempts by some presiding officers of the National Assembly to foist amendments in the Electoral Act that could compromise the integrity of elections in Nigeria. Many groups have protested vociferously against the move. This week, civil society groups and the Southern Governors Forum joined several Nigerians to criticize the lawmakers for attempting to insert and exclude provisions in the proposed legislation that will stifle reforms of the country's electoral system. Arise correspondent Ferdinand Duroa reports.
The Alliance of Civil Society Organizations for Expansion of Electoral and Democratic Space gathered again to protest at the National Assembly. The group was there last week. This time, they were joined by some Nigerians who share in their desire for a better electoral system. Speakers called on the National Assembly to ensure passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which will improve the nation's electoral system.
The results should be transmitted electronically. We saw it done in Edo, during the Edo governorship elections. And people were following the result real time. A result that was being posted on the INEC portal will not be changed by PDP or APC. We don't care who wins or who is in power. What we care about is the advancement of our electoral system in the country.
Despite assurances by the Speaker, House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, that there is no alteration in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill as widely believed, the group warns that adulterating the Act will lead to violence and chaos.
For how long have we been fighting for this electoral reform? I sat in there at the public hearing where the Senate President came out and stood and said we should take his words. And we know now that his words mean nothing.
Nothing.
And how many months after, from December, he said the first quarter they were going to pass the electoral bill. The electoral bill that the people want, not the electoral bill that they want. And here we are up to today. We are now in July and we're still asking for the same thing.
At a time when people are losing hope in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, this National Assembly ought to be doing things that will make people to have trust and love in Nigeria. Simple. But when all that you do as a National Assembly is for you to go against the will of the people and what is known as a common sense, then you are threatening the very existence of Nigeria.
There have been speculations of an amended Section 50, subsection 2, which prohibits the electronic transmission of election results. Youth groups also argue that any attempts to increase the campaign expenses for political aspirants will amount to disenfranchising youths and other marginalized groups. Now it begins with this sit-out, but this coalition of civil society groups say they will continue to occupy the National Assembly until all the suggestions put forward during the public hearing are considered by the Senate when they discuss the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Ferdinand Duroha reporting for Arise News.
Well, to discuss this and what needs to be done to checkmate self-serving legislators, we will now be joined by Cynthia Mbamalu, Director of Programs YIAGA Africa, one of the civil society groups that was involved in the march to the National Assembly on Tuesday. Welcome to the show, Cynthia Mbamalu. Thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Well, very quickly,
Thank you and good morning.
We've been discussing this subject all week, the controversial clauses in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill as proposed, specifically sections 50, subsection 2, section 88, and other clauses in that bill. But for the benefit of our viewers, if you could help us, define what is being contested by civil society groups in Nigeria. There was a protest in April. Now there was another one yesterday. What are the issues?
Yes, these are very important issues, and I'm glad we're still having this conversation because in our democracy, citizens, the people, we need to remain vigilant and ensure that we do not sleep on our rights and make demands from our lawmakers, especially in the electoral amendment process. Like mentioned, there are 3 important provisions that we believe should be retained in the electoral amendment bill because They were proposed at the public hearing in December last year, and it was supposed to be, or it supposedly was one part of the provisions that made it into the reports from the committee, only for us to get information over the weekend that these provisions were taken away. One of that is sections 52, the clause 52. That is the provisions on INEC's power to transmit results electronically. Now, what we are seeing in this bill that we got wind of over the weekend was a prohibition or a provision prohibiting INEC from deploying from transmitting results electronically. The other important provision is the power of INEC to review results declared if those results were not declared voluntarily and were not declared in line with the electoral laws and guidelines. Now, that was our proposal, to give INEC that power to review the declarations made by returning officer. Now, what we have seen is that that power was taken away, making the declaration by the returning officer final, and only the court or the electoral tribunal can review or overturn that. And that for us is problematic. And the other major provision is the one on elections expenses, campaign finance expenses. Now, the proposal we're seeing in this bill has extended or expanded the limit for expenditure for presidential campaigns to 15 billion naira in an economy in the state in which our economy currently is crying, where poverty and unemployment is at an increase. We want to legalize this expenditure of 15 billion naira for campaigns for the president and 5 billion for the governor, 1.5 for the Senate. So you see, these are three major issues, and I want to highlight why they are very important. Now, why do we think the Electoral Commission deserves that, should have a power to review results declared by the returning officer? If you remember in 2019, where at the point of declaring results in Imo, the returning officer had said, I'm declaring this under duress. But that result was still upheld, even by the court. And we've had situations where results are declared involuntarily, where people are under pressure, or even not declared in line with the Electoral Act. And we have said what this has done is people manipulate the process on elections day at the point of declaration, and then they go to fight in the court. Now, at the court, anything can happen. We've seen cases thrown out on technicalities. And we have said that to safeguard our electoral democracy, to protect the rights of the voters who have voted on elections day, to protect that right, INEC should have a power to review results which were declared under duress or not declared in line with the electoral laws and guidelines. That way, results can be reviewed and the power of the voters can be restored and safeguarded. We need that provision. We need that provision brought back in the Electoral Amendment Bill before it is passed. On electronic transmission of results, that is important because we have seen it work in Edo, we've seen it work in Ondo, where you can go on the INEC result portal and download polling unit level results. In our elections, you know we have a value chain of in the electoral process. The accreditation is one of that, and then the results process. Now, voters remain and count the votes at the polling units. But what we have seen is that the collation process has remained the weak link. So things change within the collation process. But if we transmit results from the polling unit, then it guarantees citizens that our results at the polling, the votes cast at the polling unit is a true reflection of the results announced. And also you can go to court using the data from the result portal to challenge an outcome of a result. But if this provision, if the electronic transmission of result is not retained in the electoral bill, what this means is that parties, candidates who are aggrieved cannot rely on the data on the INEC result portal to challenge an outcome of the court of an elections in court. And we think that is a grave disservice and injustice to voters who have gone to cast their votes, who all they want is their votes to count. Electronic transmission of results would guarantee electoral integrity in our democracy, and we need these provisions to be written in the Electoral Amendment Bill. And then the conversation on election spending. We need to regulate money. Money is beginning to determine the outcome of elections. So now elections, votes are being cast, but what we have seen that the votes that are being cast are the votes that are bought, or the election is being bought, and we can no longer sustain our democracy in a system where only the highest bidder wins the elections. And that is why we believe that we cannot have an electoral amendment bill that legalizes the expenditure of as high as 15 billion naira for campaign finance for the president. Where will that money come from? When we do not even guarantee the transparency in the process, no one is given account on where these monies come from. We already know that state funds are being utilized for campaigns, and now we want to make this legal. We think this is a grave injustice to Nigeria. It is insensitive to our current economic realities. And we believe that campaign expenditure, campaign finance expenditure, the limitation at the most for the president should not exceed 5 billion. That was what was in the proposed amendment bill that we knew of before this manipulation happened in the course of the past week. And we believe that as civil society organizations, as citizens, we need an electoral amendment bill that is citizens responsive, that is futuristic, and that takes into consideration the need to promote electoral integrity in Nigeria.
Thank you so much for that, Cynthia. Thank you, truly. And even what you just said about the 5 billion naira that was initially proposed, there are all kinds of loopholes that prevent INEC from effectively policing exactly what is spent on campaign funds. And you said you're not sure where the 15 billion naira will come from. I have a pretty good idea of where politicians will get that war chest. It's us, the Nigerian public, that's going to pay for that 15 million. It's really completely unacceptable. But are you gratified in any way that the Speaker of the House of Representatives has commented on this issue and has completely disavowed any knowledge of this so-called amendment, as has the chairman of the Electoral Committee in the House of Reps? I also want to commend the people in Imo State whose representative raised this point of order and said that he was inundated with phone calls from his constituents. This is what we have to do. We have to apply pressure on our representatives. What's your comment on all of that?
Yes, we need to continue to apply pressure, and we're glad to hear the Speaker actually make a statement on this issue because, first, the National Assembly, both committees in the Senate and the House, it's been a harmonious process. So they've been working as a joint committee, which is why we're surprised that there is another conversation within the Senate and another by the House. But we want to hold on to the words of the Speaker that the bill before them still has these important provisions in them, and also believing that this process there will be a point of harmonization. So when it's presented at the third reading for debate, there's also going to be a process where both the Senate and the House would harmonize what they have before it is sent to the President for assent. And we want to hold on to the words of the Speaker to remind him that he represents the people. As the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Nigeria, he should safeguard the interests and priority issues of the people. We also call on the Senate President because he is the principal the leader of the Senate, and we need to ensure that whatever decisions both the Senate and the House would reach, I know the Senate would present their bill, I think, on Thursday, tomorrow. Whatever the conversation is, we want a bill that is citizens responsive. We do not want to see manipulation and political mischief playing out in this process. And we call on our lawmakers, because the National Assembly is the hub of democracy. For once, stand with the people and speak the language the people understand by passing the priority issues citizens have demanded consistently. And that way we know that you truly represent our Nigerians and that you truly believe in the democracy of Nigeria.
I mean, can you just explain to me the sense around this bill, trying to remove electronic transmission, when INEC had used a model that worked in Edo and was even talking about furthering that model in Anambra to bring technology full on? So INEC had gone forward, INEC had seen the future, the lawmakers bringing us back now. And I want you to quickly comment on the case of Loretta Onochie. YIAGA said you've got some material as regards some depositions as regards Loretta. Can we put it to the fore?
Yes, on Loretta Onochie, actually, we had submitted a petition calling on the Senate committee, the chair of the Senate committee on INEC, and also the leadership of the Senate to ensure that they decline any confirmation of Loretta Onoche because of her partisan position. Because one, she's truly partisan, a registered member of a political party, and by the provisions of the Constitution, she is unconstitutional. She cannot, within the laws, within the provision of the Constitution, she cannot be a member of the Electoral Commission, because one major consideration is being non-partisan and being neutral and being independent. And we have actually gone to court also. Yesterday we filed a case in court challenging this nomination. And we believe that if the National Assembly, the Senate especially, because they would be screening her tomorrow on Thursday, based on the reports in the media this morning, they will be screening of Loretta Onoche on Thursday, that process should not even yield any result. It should be declined. It should be rejected. The nomination should be rejected, because Loretta Onoche, she can be in other institutions. We don't care any other institution. But if it comes to the Electoral Commission, the Independent National Electoral Commission, that body mandated to conduct elections in Nigeria, our constitution is clear. That person, individuals nominated, must be non-partisan and must be of unquestionable character. And we believe that Madam Loretta Onoche is a registered member of a political party, meaning that she is partisan already. She was an appointee of the president, appointed by the president, and she's been carrying out in full support, glaring support of the president publicly and even in private. So there are evidence already adducing to the fact that she is a registered member of the political party. We also have evidence a deposition where she had clearly affirmed that she was a registered member of the All Progressive Congress. And we believe that all this evidence leads and sufficiently provides grounds for the Senate to reject the nomination of Madam Loretta Onoche in the Electoral Commission. And we believe that the president should make another nomination. We have women, if it's about gender, we have women with the capacity and competency, even within the South-South region, that can be nominated. Nigeria is a big country. Nigeria is a country blessed with intelligent, capable people. We cannot be constrained to one person, one nomination. There are people that the president can nominate. Senate should reject that nomination and let the president renominate someone that meets the provisions of the Constitution. And on the electronic transmission of results, I want to believe that the lawmakers care about democracy, because only those who care about electoral democracy would push for provisions that would build our democratic process, especially our elections. Anyone coming against this provision obviously does not care about that. And I know politicians may be worried. And because we know how our elections have been, there is a lot of manipulation and fraudulent activities that happen. Now, when results are transmitted from the polling unit level, as observer groups, we believe that the results at the polling unit level are in their purest form. Remember that voters remain to count these results. They watch when these results are recorded in the results from EC8A before it is transmitted for collation. Now, if at that level we have access to the polling unit level result, it means that whatever happens within collation, you can easily detect where the process or where the problem is. And it provides INEC the power of oversighting this process. Now, it makes sense. I understand that politicians may be worried that if this provision makes it, it means that all the antiques and all the strategies they may have deployed for the next elections may all be defeated. But honestly, at this point, national interest should supersede political interest. This is a game for the next elections, and which is why citizens must remain vigilant, because we can no longer let the political class determine our future. We, the people, want to decide our future, and we want to decide that through our vote, and we want our votes to count. So for politicians that may be worried about the provisions, if I were you, I would go back and work to ensure that the people believe in me enough to vote for me, rather than try to take away provisions in the laws that will guarantee the integrity of the process. If you're worried about winning elections, go and work. People will vote those who have worked for them. Go and work. Leave our laws. Let our laws guarantee credibility in our process.
Okay, very quickly, Cynthia. And my first question, I don't want you to take it as a joke. It has to do with Section 88, which is with campaign finance. I've read a comment somewhere saying that, yeah, well, the lawmakers may have decided to increase electoral spending by 200%, considering the fact that there is inflation, stagflation, galloping inflation in Nigeria. And they may have imagined that if inflation today is about 17.93%, going forward with all the tailwinds and headwinds that we have within the economy, they could have imagined that by 2023, you need to spend more money to become president of Nigeria or senator or a member of House of Reps or a governor. Hence, this is like, tagging it to inflation rate. That's one leg of it. The second leg of it has to do with the comment made by the Senate president, saying that, look, those who are protesting, including the CSOs, should stop blaming principal officers of the National Assembly, and that whoever has any grievances should approach their representatives in the National Assembly as the bill goes through a third reading before it is passed. What are your thoughts on these two issues?
First, the Senate president represents Nigerians. Yes, he comes from a constituency, but he also represents Nigerians. And yes, you should be comfortable with citizens calling you, because that was why you were elected as a representative of the people and of your constituents. So I think he's giving an advice, but he should also welcome the calls and demands from the people, because he plays an important role as the leader of the Senate. That is a strategic and powerful position, which is why the people need him to take a stand with the citizens. And yes, we also need to put pressure on our lawmakers, because at the end, they would vote individually at the floor of the Senate and the House. And we are hoping that this time around it wouldn't be voice votes, because we want to see the records of the vote so that we will know the lawmakers that voted in line with the people and lawmakers that did not vote in the line of the people. So voice votes should not even be considered this time around. But citizens should also call their lawmakers, call your individual representatives, because we need to get the vote, we need to get the affirmation in support of this proposed electoral amendment, and even to debate these issues if we have issues that are going to be major threats to our elections, next general elections. On the inflation rate, I think this is a matter of governance. And honestly, it would be worrisome if those that represent us in government do not have any hope of a foreseeable future where we would have dealt with the increasing rate of inflation. And because one of the things we want to believe is that while citizens are feeling the brunt of our economic hardship, that our leadership are working together, both the legislative and the executive, working together to resolve our economic crisis, so that in the next year or 2 years to come, the people can be proud of the standard of living that they are experiencing. So that would not even be an argument. What for me is important is that our lawmakers focus on campaign financing regulation that is realistic within our economic realities. Increasing it, what it does, increasing it is it gives room for people to embezzle funds, to steal funds in order to contest for campaigns. And what this means is also that they are thinking about buying votes and buying the elections rather than thinking about campaigning based on issues. So it's not about the money, it's about the quality of your campaign.
Right. You were talking about voice votes. Dr. Abati made a point about that earlier on in this week, about how the opacity of the way the voting is done in the National Assembly, when you can hear a chorus of nays and a chorus of ayes, you hear one louder than the other, but sometimes something entirely different is declared, or so it seems. But I want us to round off on possibly any response that you have had, the group of civil society organizations and concerned Nigerians who marched on the National Assembly with their placards and with their demands. What have you heard in terms of response specifically to the issues that you raised?
I think we've had the pressure obviously is being felt by the National Assembly, which is why you have both the Senate President and even the Speaker making comments. And we also have some lawmakers that have reached out. Some have reached out actually commending our vigilance and our activism in that. We don't expect the lawmakers to be happy with the protests and the demands. But we're not going to relent until we have a law that we truly believe is responsive to our needs. So yes, one phase is the third reading and the debate. We're going to continue even after that until we have presidential assent to a citizens' responsive electoral law. I think the pressure would continue. So far, I believe that the National Assembly they can hear us, they can see our engagement, they can read the reports and hear our demands. And if truly they represent the people, they would act as they would want to act. The Senate President, the Speaker has said the authentic bill, because he used the word authentic, that what is circulated is not authentic. So I want to believe that what he believes is authentic is that bill that actually guarantees electronic transmission of results, that guarantees the power of INEC to review results declared under duress or not declared in lines with the electoral law, and also that the authentic bill he has does not have campaign expenses as high as 15 billion. So I want to hold on to the words of the Speaker.
All right, thank you so much, Cynthia, for your time this morning. Appreciate you for your insight.